Vanessa Paradis entered the world of fame quietly, almost without anyone noticing. From the start, she was a strange kind of icon, delicate, reserved, with a gaze that seemed covered in a thin veil of mystery. Success came early and swiftly, as if she were destined to belong to the spotlight, yet those who truly looked knew she had never asked for it. Her presence was never loud, never forced. Vanessa moved through the public eye with a calmness that made her magnetic. Joe Lataxi recognized her uniqueness, giving her a platform where her delicate voice, her soft presence, and her understated beauty could shine without compromise. The media dubbed her the golden child of French showbiz. Magazines called her the muse of silence. Yet it was precisely this quiet strength that set her apart. The magnetism of quiet. Vanessa's silence was not emptiness. It was a deliberate, gentle way of existing in a noisy world. While others thrived on scandal or spectacle, she offered calm. Her beauty endured, not by adhering to strict standards, but by simply being herself. Her voice, slightly hoarse, her gaze that seemed to read through people, her hair loose and untamed, all contributed to a presence that fascinated without dominating. She became a figure that could not be possessed or explained. Directors praised her subtlety. The public adored her authenticity. The press, meanwhile, found her ungraspable, unable to provoke controversy or sensational headlines. Meeting Johnny Depp. Johnny Depp entered Vanessa's life quietly, almost imperceptibly. Their first encounter was unremarkable to an outsider. A narrow hallway in a Paris hotel, dim yellow light, the faint smell of rain. Vanessa was leaving a photo shoot. Johnny had finished a private meeting. No cameras, no dramatic music, no destined theatrics, just a simple coincidental crossing of paths. Yet in that brief moment, something shifted. Johnny's eyes carried a kind of fatigue and quiet solitude that Vanessa immediately recognized, a reflection of spaces she herself had walked. Their first words were minimal, a nod, a simple hello, and yet that fleeting connection resonated far beyond what either could explain. A relationship built on calm. Their subsequent encounters were just as natural, almost casual, yet each meeting deepened a bond that neither sought nor forced. Johnny's quiet presence complemented Vanessa's measured stillness, creating a rare sense of mutual understanding. At the time, Johnny was navigating professional and personal turbulence, while Vanessa, though highly visible in her career, felt a lightness in his company she had never known. One evening, he whispered, "You make everything calmer." Vanessa didn't reply, but her eyes shifted subtly, an acknowledgement that this was a connection she could neither predict nor control. It was not the moment of love, but the moment she sensed she was part of a story larger than herself. Private moments in a public life. Blick. Their early months together were simple and grounding. Johnny, accustomed to chaos, seemed to find a rhythm with Vanessa's quiet steadiness. Neither needed grand declarations. They shared small routines and gentle silences that spoke louder than words. They avoided the limelight when they could, seeking ordinary spaces to live as privately as possible. Together, they built a life in France with their children, grounding themselves in everyday simplicity. Johnny admitted that Vanessa made him feel anchored in a way he hadn't before. It was not just love, it was the comfort of being understood without having to explain every piece of oneself. The subtle drift. Yet even the calmest relationships face tests. Work and long travels began to take Johnny away more frequently. Gradually, the quiet moments that had sustained them became less frequent. His gaze shifted, brief responses replaced extended conversation, and a subtle distance formed. Vanessa noticed these small changes, but did not overreact. She stayed present, trying to maintain the rhythm of care and calm that had always defined them. The gap, imperceptible at first, slowly grew like a widening shadow. The weight of being unseen. Vanessa began to sense the subtle erosion of their connection. Johnny was not cruel, not inattentive, but absorbed in his own struggles, often distant even when physically present. His inner world had grown heavier, and Vanessa found herself acting as both anchor and observer. Nights passed with quiet reflections, sometimes shared, sometimes solitary. Over time, she realized she could no longer distinguish between loving him and trying to save him. Their interactions, once full of comforting silences, now carried a quiet strain. Her efforts, her care, her patience, though abundant, were becoming invisible. The moment of truth. The turning point was quiet, almost mundane. One evening, Vanessa looked at Johnny, expecting the familiar connection, the acknowledgement that had always existed between them. He did not respond. His gaze passed right through her. There were no harsh words, no anger, only absence. It was a moment that crystallized everything she had felt. She was no longer truly seen. In that stillness, Vanessa understood that love alone could not bridge the distance. She packed a few things, not in anger, not in accusation, but in quiet acceptance. She left gently, preserving the dignity of both herself and the man she had loved. Reflections. After 2 decades, 20 years later, Vanessa Paradis spoke for the first time about that period, not in a grand revelation or dramatic confession, but in calm, reflective words. She described the loneliness, the quiet erosion of self, and the realization that love could not save a person who had drifted away within themselves. She did not recount every struggle or detail, but she spoke about the feeling of disappearing in someone else's life. When asked about regret, she shook her head. "I don't regret it," she said. "I only regret having erased myself without realizing it." Those words resonated deeply, a reminder that the tragedy of love is not always in being unloved, but in losing oneself while caring for another. Rediscovering freedom. In speaking, Vanessa reclaimed something she had set aside for decades: her own presence, her voice, her freedom. She emphasized that this reflection was not meant to accuse or judge, but simply to breathe, to acknowledge a truth long held in silence. Today, Vanessa's life is quieter, more deliberate. She chooses her appearances, her work, her spaces, and the people around her with intention. She sings when she wishes, writes when inspired, and allows herself the simplicity she once denied. Her mornings are her own, waking slowly, breathing the cold air, and embracing each day without pressure. Healing through presence. Vanessa understands that suffering does not vanish, but it loses power when acknowledged rather than locked away. Over the years, she has gradually regained her own sense of being, a presence that is independent, unburdened, and alive. She no longer measures her life by expectations or by others' needs. Her healing is slow and steady, a gentle reclamation of self that brings quiet joy. When asked about forgiveness, she simply responds, "I don't need to forgive. I need to be free." And in that freedom, there is a quiet triumph, a woman who has stepped out of the shadow of another, fully into her own life. A voice reclaimed. Vanessa Paradis' story is not one of dramatic heartbreak or scandal. It is one of patience, resilience, and the delicate act of reclaiming oneself. Her voice, once silent, now speaks with clarity and calm. It is not loud or demanding, but it carries the power of authenticity, the quiet authority of someone who has truly known themselves. Her journey reminds us that love is most profound not in possession, but in understanding, and that freedom comes from recognizing one's own worth. After 20 years of silence, Vanessa's words mark a new beginning, a testament to living fully, gently, and unapologetically.